everybody, and welcome to this episode of Great Minds Print Alike, where I get the opportunity to ask great minds in our business about all things print and marketing. So today we're joined by Simon Ludlam, one of our account directors. So Simon, tell me why you're one of our great minds. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I've always been into print since nursery school. Looking at all the textbooks and looking at all the finishing on the textbooks. But seriously, I kind of got pulled into print from my family. But then, having said that, here I am many years later, and I'm still doing what I love. So
Fabulous.
That's where I am.
So Simon, I know you spend a lot of time with clients talking about direct mail. We've luckily got some large brands that you work with. But I guess a common misconception about direct mail is that it's simply about putting letters into envelopes. What would you say to that common misconception?
I'd say it's a lot more than that. It's more the kind of the doormat appeal is very, very important, and you can grab lots of attention by being different. So yes, we have letters and that's all fine. But if we want to be part of a journey and push the right message to the right people, then we need to be engaging, and we can get very, very creative with something that lands on your doorstep.
Okay, so as a marketer, that's quite exciting for me to know that it doesn't have to be a simple piece of paper that's put into an envelope. Talk to me a little bit about the types of options that are available to marketeers today when it comes to direct mail.
Yeah, so I think that print now or direct mail can actually lend itself to a digital customer journey. Okay, so I think that the amount of interactivity that you can put in a piece of print is just as much as an email, really.
Okay.
You can draw data very quickly, turn it into a piece of print, and have that land on somebody's doorstep the following day, really. So it can just be as timely and as relevant as an email, with the added advantage of it being tangible and something to hold and share, because people will actually get a piece of direct mail, and if it's interesting, they will keep it in the house for a number of weeks. They'll share it with people, and I really can't remember the last time I shared an email and said, "Hey, have you seen this?" But I have seen that with print.
Okay, so talk to me about some examples maybe that you've worked with, or examples that you've maybe seen around that are exciting formats, so our listeners or our viewers can get a real feel for how exciting direct mail can be.
Yeah, so we engineer a lot of pieces. So we work with agencies at concept stage for direct mail projects, and then so we're able then to take on what the agency would like to put in their piece, and then turn that into reality by engineering it and having lots of real estate in it and lots of call to actions in it,
Okay.
but also having it kind of, so there's a slider mailer that we have a slider mailer here that gives us a lot more type of real estate and interaction that you can have on your piece of print.
So talking about that piece you mentioned earlier about something being tactile, it's that piece of you're actually having to do something with it. You're touching it, you're moving it, you're looking at various bits of information within it. Unlike in an email where I guess it's quite flat, isn't it?
It is. And of course, personalization is a massive thing as well.
Okay.
Lots of detail on these pieces. So this can be addressed to me, can have my name on it, but not only that, it can have my points on there. It could have QR codes that drive you also to Pearls and other personalized websites as well. So the amount of interactivity you can put on that, and if it's got your name on, well, who's not going to read that when it's personalized to you?
And I'm looking at that as well. And that's a beautiful piece of, a beautiful substrate. Feels nice to touch. It looks nice. It's not just that 80-gram paper that I was talking to about earlier when we were talking about letters.
Mm.
Other examples?
Other examples.
You showed me another one. I know you are.
Yeah, and this is really cool because it's an invite and it's all personalized. So you open this invite, and in here, coincidentally, we've got all the creds on there as well.
Okay.
So we've got all the environmental creds on there, which you can put on that, even if it's, there's laminated or foiled or whatever, you can still get lots of environmental creds on there. So then you can open that up and it's all personalized.
There's QR codes on there as well.
There's a QR code on there, and they know that I've bought dining stuff before, so that's all pushed to me because it's relevant. So
is that complex, Simon? Is that really difficult to manage that data to enable us to have so many different versions?
Yes and no. I think providing the data is continually refreshed and is active, then you can turn any kind of chunk of data, you can turn that into something very, very relevant. So you can start to push relevant offers to the right people. So you're not having to wade through lots of detail or lots of information that doesn't interest you. It can just cut straight to the core and say, we know your purchasers. Very similar to an email, but you can hold it, it's tactile. But then you can join the digital world by scanning the QR and take you onto the digital world, and it can be a pre-populated site, so you can just hit order or whatever and just drive you to those the right products.
Okay, so I noticed there that that's quite a high-end brand that you're dealing with there, and listening to some of the things that you're talking about. Is this activity just for people with big budgets?
No, it doesn't have to be. We can incorporate that into things like door drops as well.
Okay.
So, or other pieces of print. There was one here where we have store openings, so it's a off-price, kind of brand. So it's not a high end, but it's certainly, it's a good consumer brand, and we can drive people in to stores very effectively by using this type of DM as well, this type of print really. So if you notice, each and every one is totally different on there. So this is not just it's just not a generic door drop. So we can drive people in by sending that to them, and then in store we will have a massive poster that matches one of these, and each one is unique. So then when they go into store and they match it up, then they get the voucher, or
I love that.
Yeah, and that's really good.
And from a direct mail perspective and from a formats perspective, whilst the actual creative on it is clever and well thought out, the format itself is a very simple piece. So where I guess it's clever, where we get the engagement with the client, is the content on that piece, not necessarily the format of the piece itself.
It is. Format is also really important, actually, because everyone expects it to be A5 and A4.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger cut through is when you go kind of off size on there and slightly out of size. So then it looks different and it looks appealing on when you receive that. And you're more likely then to pick that up. So there's a lot of US sizes that I borrow and use those because they still fit within the UK letter size or large letter, which is really important when you're looking at budgets, to look at the weight and the size of things. But you don't necessarily have to just stick to the one perceived size of A4 or A5 or DL. You can play around with that still get within postal budget as well.
Okay, so going back to that budget sensitive marketeer, because let's be frank, most marketeers in today's world are very conscious of their budget and conscious of spend. Talk to me about where you have done some budget friendly or budget conscious campaigns.
That's a good question. So a budget campaign is something like this. Where they had a limited amount of budget. They wanted still to get very good cut through. So whilst it's halfway kind of, you can kind of play around with it, in there is still things that are really, really relevant. So we've got a size there that we can get so many more out of the sheet rather than, a big kind of fully blown piece of DM or lots of interesting substrates. This is kind of fairly basic, but it's very, very relevant. So it's the smallest piece that we can pretty much produce and have mailed and it still be quite successful, but we can still open that up and we've still got lots of space there where we've got all these offers here that belong to the recipient along with the QR code down there. You scan that, it takes you to the offers and you purchase and away you go, because that's the number of points you've got there, so you know exactly what you've got. That's really, really powerful.
Okay. And I guess right at the other end of the scale, so where budget is no option, if there is such a thing anymore, I guess the possibilities are endless.
They are, yeah. We all remember that we did a box a few years ago, which was effectively a DM piece, and there was lots of money spent in that. But I had the one recently, which we looked at, and this was the end result of an invite. So this is actually a DM piece. But if you look at that and feel that
beautiful,
if you get that piece, then you know that you are loved by that brand.
You're very important to that brand.
Absolutely.
And it's tactile, like you say. You want to touch it. You want to kind of keep it. It doesn't feel like something that you'd throw away particularly.
So perceived value in that is really good. And then I think there's still QRs in there, which will then drive you online as well, which is, the best way to kind of pick up on the offers.
So do you think there's one kind of format, Simon, that's more successful than others?
I'm a big fan of that slider mailer, I have to say, because you can still keep within budget with the size and the weight and everything, but you can also have lots of space on there to push lots of offers. And it all comes down to the data. It all comes down to what have we got in the data, because every single piece of data that's relevant, we can convert that into something something that is relevant on print and get that in front of people. But I'm a big fan of the A5 slider.
Okay. And do you think the A4 brochure has had its day then?
It's a good question about that. I would think that in certain scenarios, then that the A4 brochure has probably seen better days.
Okay.
But I would also say that if you look at different types of sectors, travel sector maybe, then we know from the data what holiday you've purchased, what you are likely to purchase, what your budget is. So to put a timed offer in front of somebody and have that on page 2 or 3 that it says, "Hey Helen, look at me, book by whenever, and you get this much off. We know that you like these types of places," and that is so much more. It's so much more powerful.
So the relevance becomes as important as the format of the mail. Yeah,
I agree. And it's it's a shame what happens to things like the Argos catalogue, whatever, and they which is an institution that I think that there is time for other relevant pieces to be out there, a lot smaller and a lot more interesting, really.
Okay. Thank you very much, Simon. That's been really insightful. I've really enjoyed that. I guess the last thing to say is that you've talked a lot about data today and the need for data. And I think from my perspective as a marketeer, we sometimes get quite nervous about, the data side of things. It's not always our area of strength, shall we say. But I guess that's something you, as an account director here at Precision Proco, can help clients with.
Yeah, you mean in terms of getting hold of the correct data?
How to use that data?
Yeah, definitely. And we do a lot of preliminary kind of work on that as well, and we'll play around with the formats and look at what we can turn a piece of data into, and then show them that physically, so we can we can actually show them how powerful that can be by using a chunk of data. And I would also say that if somebody is thinking about that, but they have a mind in the digital world, then I would say take a piece of your data and do a test on that. So the next campaign, do a chunk of that on DM, but have something that you can measure on that. So you can measure the results and then see where you end up, because you will end up with more conversions on the DM.
Fabulous. Thanks very much, Simon. Really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you've got any questions you'd like me to ask the great minds here at Precision Proco, please get in touch with us on our website.